Hello, I'm Graham Elwood, and welcome to another episode of The Political Vigilante. I want to keep talking a little bit about some of the Russian hysteria, and I went to another source. I went to the truthdig.com, which is an interesting website, and it is more sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, independent, left-wing, non-corporate news. And Chris Hedges, who is one of the, who is a contributor to truthdig.com, what they basically did, and this was posted on January 17th, and Chris Hedges talks about how what he refers to as the deep state, which is the real people that run the country, not the Republicans or Democrats, but the surveillance state, the military industrial complex, will influence the Trump presidency. So he's basically on an episode of Redacted Tonight with host Lee Camp. Redacted Tonight is on RT, which is the Russian television, which has been slammed as like, oh, it's just a, it's just propaganda for Putin. Which I don't know. I watch it and I don't. Doesn't seem like a lot of propaganda for Putin, but it's worth watching because, CNN and MSNBC and Fox are just propaganda for the corporate America. So it's a video interview that Lee Camp does with Chris Hedges, and I just want to talk about it a little bit, and I think you should go and watch it yourself. So Chris Hedges talks about the collapse of the mainstream media and the continued rise of the deep state. And they're talking about the recent headlines over alleged Russian hacks during the 2016 election. Hedges condemns the mainstream media for, quote, hyperventilating over the alleged attacks, adding that the media fervor about Russia has insidious roots. It's about shutting down the voices of dissidents, Hedges says. He explains that America always needs an enemy and that Russian President Vladimir Putin is easier to demonize than someone like FBI Director James Comey, who was initially seen as the enemy when Hillary lost the presidential election. That's a good point. And Hedges also talks about, and I vaguely remember this as a kid, but he's like, the news on the 60s, the Black Panthers were interviewed on the news. Noam Chomsky was on the news. People who, Gloria Steinem, these people were regularly, now you have to go to RT or democracynow.org, find some obscure website. You got to go to this, truthdig.com, or you have to go to The Intercept, or all these, you have to dig through to find these things that used to be on mainstream TV. These people were, now what the media does in terms of a differing point of view is they just get a wingnut. They don't have two reasonable people on either side of a thing and have an actual discussion. TV now is you're for, you're against, and then you got to fight it out. And then that's it. And it makes for good sound bites and yelling and stuff like that. That's good for ratings. So, one of the other things that Hedges talks about in this interview, in addition to we always need an enemy, and I talked about this in the Jeremy Corbyn article that Glenn Greenwald did. I talk so fast, I get so wound up, and then I start stuttering. Glenn Greenwald, that little guy, I can't. But so what he talks about is the economic factors at play that Hedges talks about is the war machine, he says, needs to demonize Russia because it is earning billions of dollars in Eastern Europe with the expansion of NATO. So we need to build up NATO. And Trump just, he is going to be a puppet. He's a convenient puppet because he freakishly won this election. But if he bucks the system too much with the war machine, watch out. Eisenhower warned about the war machine. He coined the term the military-industrial complex. And because he even had to kind of kowtow to them a little bit. Camp asks how Donald Trump, who presented himself as a political outsider, will handle these economic and political forces when he becomes president. Hedges responded, I'm not sure Trump has any fixed beliefs, and it's clear that the deep state, the security and surveillance apparatus, the war machine, so the security and surveillance apparatus got really ramped up during the 8 years of Obama. Obama really ramped that up, and we all just sort of kind of let it happen. We all just kind of started letting it happen since 9/11. The Patriot Act, well, we got to kind of let that happen. And then Obama, you know, he's keeping us safe, and we haven't had another 9/11, so it's okay. So the deep state, as he states, the security and surveillance apparatus, the war machine, all sectors of the deep state, Democrat and Republican, are going to put the screws on him to ratchet up or continue this aggressive posture towards Russia, partly because there are large sections of the U.S. economy, i.e. the defense industry, for whom this is a huge profit-making venture. It's really a fascinating interview, and he talks about how dissidents are going to be handled under the Trump administration, probably pretty forcefully. But look at Standing Rock. So there were people, and this is under Obama, you know, peacefully protesting, and they were shot with water cannons and rubber bullets, and it was people were hurt, severely hurt, blinded. I mean, it was brutal. And Obama finally stepped in at like the 11th hour. You know, finally stepped in, but people were getting abused at Standing Rock for weeks and months. So it's pretty scary, but it's a pretty interesting thing. And the thing that where I'm getting some comfort from, and Hedges talks about this, about how to be hopeful without being optimistic. He brings about climate change. Climate change is a real thing. And I've talked about it on numerous episodes of this, and I'll continue to talk about it. Because instead of spending all this money on the war machine and oil, we should be spending money on trying to survive climate change. So the technology's out there. We just need to get the money behind it. So I suggest you go to this. It's Redacted Tonight with host Lee Camp, and it's his interview with Chris Hedges. And it was posted on January 17th, 2017. Watch it. It's very interesting. I'm getting hope because I'm learning more about these people. I'm learning about Chris Hedges. I'm learning about Glenn Greenwald. I'm learning about thetruthdig.com and The Intercept. I'm learning more about this. I hope you do too. Maybe you've already been studying this and you're like, hey, Graham, where the fuck have you been? Awesome. Let me know some more places to get some more information. And again, when I quote these websites or whatever, I'm not saying like this site is amazing, it's 100% awesome and great and correct. And I'm just saying I'm getting some interesting information from them. And some of these people seem like they actually care about journalism. And because being a dissident is going to get increasingly tough. But we all have to do it. Like it, guys. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe. Tell your friends. This is a new show. You posting on social media really helps. I know you're like, I only got 200 followers on this or that. It helps. And I'm at Graham Elwood on Twitter. I'm at Graham Elwood on Instagram. And I'm facebook.com/Graham Elwood Comedy is my fan page. Because my regular Facebook page is pretty much almost maxed out on friends. I only get 5,000, but you can like my fan page and learn about the other stuff I'm doing. Thanks for watching, you guys. Stay vigilant.